Hi, my name is Jane, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Jane. Can everybody hear me? Okay. I have experience doing these steps with a Big Book Step Study sponsor, a loving higher power I call God, meetings such as these, and I have done my amends, and I'm working on all of the steps, but I try to incorporate 10, 11, and 12 to the best of my willingness every day. And that's not always, my willingness changes from day to day, minute to minute. And I didn't know that, but I do now. And so I know that I can always begin again. And so that's helpful. So step 11, prayer and meditation. So I remember coming here into the halls and really just not understanding. I mean, as an adult, an old 50-plus years, I got here, and I just can't believe how much I didn't really understand. But there was something that made me want to keep coming, and it's just been an incredible journey. And the prayer and meditation part, for the longest time, I didn't get. But in the reading today, if you notice how many times it says, we ask God, we ask God. That means pray. So I don't know how many times it occurs, but I have it written in the margin. Every time I have it's written, I write pray. So how do you pray? I grew up Catholic, 7 kids, 6 brothers, went to church every week. I thought, I have God in my life, and I did there really was not much. It was a fearful God, and there was not much debate over what God was. You went to church, you did those things, those rituals, and I grew up fearing that if I didn't do those things, something bad was going to happen. And so I was driven by, even into adulthood, continuing those rituals. I always liked hearing the message, because I knew that there was something there, but I didn't really understand much of what was being said. People would say, church is boring, and you have to participate. You have to be part of. You don't just show. Showing up is important, but you have to be open to what's being said. And a lot of the church rituals really, they're just that. They're there for a reason. There needs to be structure, but there has to be something deeper. And I have to thank alcohol for helping me to see that what that richness can be. And so, I didn't grow up drinking. There wasn't alcohol in my family. I had a very good upbringing. Both my parents worked, and you just, 7 kids. You didn't complain about what was on the table. You just ate it. And I don't remember an unhappy childhood. I remember being the only girl. I had my own bedroom, and that thinking back, that that was I loved it. I loved retreating there. In a way, maybe it contributed to my loneliness, my place of isolation, but yet I loved it. I loved it, and it was there was a perk there. I was really happy that I could go there. And so anyway, life went on, and I thought everything was the way it was supposed to be, and but yet the fear of in not fitting in, not, that being uncomfortable. I had that. And I heard that when I came in these halls, people talked about that, and I thought, wow, they're really, I could never admit that. And, but I see that, that was really a driven part of my life. It was really driven a lot by fear. And so I didn't, it wasn't, like I said, my parents didn't drink. I occasionally saw my father have a beer. My brothers, I have 2 older, 4 younger, nobody was crazy like with the alcohol. It just wasn't really there. And even in high school, it wasn't like a big deal. Yeah, sure, drinking age was 18, and so at 16, you thought pretty cool, having a few drinks, but it never really escalated. Even in college, it was not, the weekend parties maybe, but it wasn't a big deal. It really wasn't, and I couldn't even tell you what age or when it really became that ball and chain, where it became that, the fitting in, to have a few drinks before you went out, and then it'd be the life of the party, and that whole thing. And so it was, I went to college, got married, and had a daughter, and so I think now, and it's really just recently, where after this work, really, I couldn't have even come to the conclusion without going through these steps and talking, sitting down with a Big Book Step Study, because I tried in the beginning. When I first came in, I didn't know anything about Big Book Step Study, and I had a sponsor, and I don't know, went to meetings, all right, talked to my sponsor, but what was in this book, I didn't really know. And so I felt like I wasn't really getting well. I just didn't know. I just didn't know. Oh, what does it mean to do the steps? You just read them and then they're done? I had no idea what that meant. I mean, I first came in and saw those 12 steps, like, all right, the first few I can kind of buy into, but after that, 4 and 5, no, I'm not going to do that. But I didn't know really until, and then I heard people talk about Big Book Step Study, and I came to a meeting and I thought, well, this is really different. And I heard old timers, people with long-term sobriety. This is really what made me come in, was, or at least explore this type of meeting, was had been sober for years, but they were not happy. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. I mean, I'm not happy, and I'm only just recently sober. And now I'm going to look at the next 15 to 20 years and still be miserable? That doesn't sound like, that doesn't sound good. And so these people with long-term sobriety came into Big Book Step, and it became different for them. And I'm like, I got to go there. I got to explore that. So I'm really grateful that I didn't have to spend 15 years in just being sober, and I got into this a year and a half into sobriety. So it's opened up a whole new world for me, and it sounds cliche, but I'm only really starting to understand what it all means. And the prayer and meditation part, so pray, I wasn't praying rightly. I've said the Lord's Prayer a million times, but really the Lord's Prayer is all about the 12 steps. They're all really in that one prayer. And I always prayed for what I wanted, and I wondered why I never got what I really, I got some things what I wanted, but I never gave God credit for it. And because I thought I did it all. I thought, I did it all. I worked hard, and I thought, I was being nice to people. I was nice, but I had no idea until I did the work here that my niceness really, much of my niceness was self-seeking motives, and I wanted something in return. I didn't know that. I didn't. I just thought, I'm going to be nice to you, and I'm going to have this expectation that I'm going to get something in return. You're going to do it my way, or not that I wanted money. I gave you money, but yet I didn't want money back, but I wanted something because I was self-centered. And so anyway, that's been humbling, and having to do the fourth. And I only found that out through my fourth step. And then the fifth. I mean, they all lead. You have to do that work. I get it now why they're in an order. And so by the time you get to the 11th, you are more open to this prayer. And when I see meditation, I thought, what the heck is that? Is that like you sit quiet and you like all the thoughts in your brain go away? No, that's not what meditation is. And I only really recently learned that. And so prayer is asking for God's help. What is His will? And when I meditate, that's the listening part. And I have to be quiet. I have to learn to be quiet. And if you notice the word listen and silence, they have the same letters in them. And you don't, one without the other. If I don't keep my mouth shut, I am not going to be able to listen. And how many times, listening is a really hard thing to do, especially when we're trying to like, God, what do you want me to do here in this? And most of the time, I have learned that, and only because of listening to people in the program, I've learned to be quiet. And that is one of the best tools that I can use. I use it in the car now. I mean, I use it everywhere, and that's the beauty of learning these things. Recently, the meditation, I kind of explored that more by attending some meditation sits at UMass on Monday nights. They have a 30-minute guided meditation, and it's free. And about 35 to 40 people come, and we sit. And you think, okay, what is that? But it's all about learning to be aware of not just being quiet, but your thoughts are going to drift when you meditate. Once you see that they're drifted, okay, come back to something as simple as your breathing. And what does your breath feel like going in and going out? And it helps you to be present. I never thought it was really going to do that. And so when I can practice this now during my day, when things get chaotic, I can practice just focusing on my breath. It helps me just stop, take a breath, and be open to what is going on. If it's an uncomfortable situation, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because in order to grow, much of we all had to, in order to learn something, we all had to kind of fail and go down before we can go up. And you really can't teach that. You have to experience failing. And what's so bad about failing? We tend to even as a parent, we have these expectations for our children, like we want them to do X, Y, Z, and when they don't, we're like, and we can really do significant damage to our people around us, including our children, when we have unrealistic expectations and we don't let them fail. And I don't know, I think of a young baby learning to walk, and that child takes a few, stands up, and they fall down, and everybody laughs at them, right? They're surrounded by people who laugh at them, but they're not feeling like, oh, you're laughing at me, you're making fun of me. What do? They get right back up, and they try again. And they don't care that people are making fun of them or laughing at them, not really making fun of, but they don't care what you think about them. And somewhere early on in life, it happens where we fail and we start caring about, oh, we're not good enough. And I think it happens before age 5, before age 4. And so, that's a hard thing to, and then we grow up, and then we're supposed to be an adult, but yet we feel these things of being not good enough, fearful. And it comes out, our adolescent behavior, we still act like that as adults. And then so we exert all this adolescent behavior, and it's all about self, and the outcome is not good. The outcome is not good. And so by asking for help and learning to be quiet and listen and be aware of what's around me and really trying to listen to other people. I recently went on a meditation retreat, and it just happened to be in Costa Rica. I mean, I couldn't do much about that it was there. That's where it was. And I went with another woman from the program, and it was an intensive week of learning how to meditate. And there were 40 people, maybe 45 people from all walks of life, from all parts of the country, and everyone in that room was seeking the same thing. It was like another fellowship. They were not some were alcoholics, but everybody was seeking that peace, that way to effectively communicate with people. I mean, and that's what it's all about, I think. I have to relearn how to communicate effectively with people, and that's the prayer and meditation part, as well as the other, the daily 10-step, and because I'm going to fail short every day. And so one of the activities that we did was we had to partner up, and I had to listen to someone tell me something about their life. And then my sole job was to just spit back what they said, making no judgments, not trying to fix anything, not offering suggestions. Try it sometime. It's difficult to do. Because when I tried to spit back what I thought she said, oh, I didn't think I said that. And, she didn't. It was my take on it. Hence, there's communication breakdown. There's a simple example. So that's why this listening and silence thing is so important for the meditation and prayer. And it tells us to pause here. And that's one thing I have learned is I don't react like I used to most of the time. What was I going to say? So a lot of the things that happened that week were really trying to figure out what is it that God wants me to do, and learning to be kind and tolerant. All of those things that we hear in these halls are so important. And I was blown away by people all over who came for the same thing. So, I found that AA has laid the foundation. It's all here. But, if you can enrich the spiritual component, and that's what it says here, if we're not spiritually fit, we're going to be in trouble. And this meditation thing has really helped to enrich the spiritual component for me in this program, and so now I have to practice that, and it's not as hard as it used to be, and I mean, just trying to be present, listening to someone, maybe and not saying anything, but really giving them our attention helps that person to feel like what they're saying is important. And that makes me think of, I saw this TED Talk. I don't know if you're familiar with TED Talks, but this gentleman was a police officer, and he patrolled the Golden Gate Bridge. And of course, that's a famous bridge that a lot of people jump from. And he's tried to talk back, many to come back on this side, not reaching all. But there was one incident where he was successful in the gentleman, the young guy coming back. He didn't jump. And so he asked that young guy, he says, why did you come back? What made you come back? And the guy just simply said, you listened to me. You didn't talk, you just listened. And I thought, wow, that's really powerful. And so that young man must have felt like he mattered. What he said mattered. So that's helpful to really listen. And it's all about being present. So prayer and meditation, it helps. I don't know. I think it's really helped me to, in a way, use my character defects even, in a good way. So because I can be impatient and I can be selfish, so I find myself like being. How can I be useful? I use these words. How can I be useful to you? And once I am, I find it takes me away from thinking about myself, and isn't that's a really good thing, not to be constantly thinking about, because it's hard not to think about your life. Your brain is constantly. You're getting impulses all the time, and that's what I learned about the meditation. It's okay to let your mind drift. I thought you had to be this for 30 minutes, be perfectly void of all. No, and it's also helped me to learn, sit with pain a little bit. Physical pain, emotional pain. What can we learn from that? Somebody's being a jerk, like you feel like you're not treated, it's easy to go with a resentment. And so if somebody is doing something that you don't like and it's making you feel bad, you can ask yourself, so what's going on here? What am I afraid of? And what can I learn from this? And that's what it's all about. Like, I don't know. I'm a much calmer person today because I don't have to. And that's the other beautiful thing. I don't have to react. I can just and engage. I have used that. If you just practice it, just practice not having the last word. It really, the results are amazing. I'm living it. I have, because I live with people who aren't in this program, and so they're going to say things that aggravate me, and I can, I don't have to respond, which is a cool thing. And the other thing that's interesting, since I've gotten into this part of the work, is I look at signs, I notice signs now, much more. And I think it's God's way of talking to us. It's going to work through people. I'm aware. And it really truly is about the journey. I was in Wisconsin visiting my daughter, and we're driving back to the airport, and on the Madison airport digital sign said, "It's all about the journey." And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? My husband could have that meant nothing to him. But to me, that was like really cool. I mean, because I'm not crazy about getting in airplanes, and I have to give up complete control because, I can't. I have nothing to do with how that plane is going to go up and come down, and I can't control the turbulence. And so I can make a choice to sit there and be miserable or I think other things, more positive things. And so things like that, those signs. I was driving to a meeting and I went by a church and it just said, "What is my purpose?" I'm like, wow, that's very cool too. And another church, it talked about they were going to have a session on loving kindness. I'm like, wow. And just recently, the pawn shop, of all places, the pawn shop on West Boylston Street, they have all their stuff that they have for sale. And then the next thing that flashed up there was, with silence comes wisdom. Like, are you kidding me? On the pawn shop, at the pawn shop. So I'm aware of these things now, and I think there are ways that God is talking and kind of giving me that sense that this is the way to go. And I don't know, it just seems to be working. I am fortunate that I have been able to retire from my big girl job, I guess you would call it. And my husband and I, 25 years ago when I started, said that if we started planning so that in 20 to whatever years I could maybe think about retirement. So we did the work. We did the work in preparing. So I can't just say I'm going to retire and everything is going to be fine. It involves work. I could pray all I want about that, but I have to do some work. And so, 2 years ago, we met with the financial guy, and he's like, it would be better if you worked one more year. I said, I can do that. And I prayed about it. I'm like, I'm praying. And I got my answer. I prayed before I went to that meeting, whatever it is, God. And I heard, it'd be better if you worked one more year. I can do that. And then I retired, and it's so I'm open to that now. Did I really want to work that other year? Not really. But I did it because I'm getting that's what I have to do, and so I don't know. There's just been a lot of my life now is filled with examples of this working. Because I'm open to it. I was so blocked from any of it and so driven by what I wanted, and it just got me, it got me nothing. It got me just constant angst and, and now I can sit quietly, not all the time, but I don't know, there's just been lots of examples where, I don't know, I ask God for help, I talk to another alcoholic, not just alcoholics, I find that even people who are that are searching for more than just this chaotic life we live. There's got to be, we're so not present because we're thinking about what we're going to do after we're doing this, and it hasn't even happened yet. And some of that, as a young person, 20, you have to do certain things to set your life up. Like, who am I going to be? I want to have this career, I want the family. So there needs to be that structure. But then some part of your life, that doesn't really work the way it did. And that's when either things start, the drinking was a way to cover up a lot of the the fear and the all of the things that weren't going my way. And I really thought I just had to put the drink down. And boy, did I not, and people will say, oh, well, you can just have a taste. I'm like, no, I can't even have a taste, nor do I want a taste. And I'm okay with that. I mean, my husband drinks. He's not an alcoholic. There's beer in my house. We went out to dinner last night. He has a beer. I have to be okay with that. I don't want it. And that's how and I have to let people live their own lives. And I can't say to him, you can't have that beer. Why do you have to have that beer in front of me? That isn't, I won't lie, in the beginning when I stopped drinking, it bothered me greatly, but now it doesn't. Because I was still all about me. And so, the whole stop, take a breath, be open, pause, or, maybe you need to react. You can't just sit around and, pause all the time. Sometimes you do have to, react, and that's okay, but at least there's a window now. And I recognize my reactive patterns, my driving. I used to be, trying to control that guy in front of me, and why is and so stupid, and because of my impatience, and for what, it's none of my business that he's driving slower than I want, and that's the other thing I've learned to really put issues in God's hands, and it's going to happen in God's time, and not when I want it to happen. That's huge, and and I'm grateful for the gifts, and they really are gifts, because amongst all this cold weather, I could go outside and really just appreciate that. I was shoveling, and in that the sun hitting the snow, I could see in the layers of that lot, all that snow, I could see this beautiful blue color. That was like the Caribbean color, and I'm like, wow, that's a really cool color, instead of just shovel snow and it's cold and miserable. So I'm open to that now, I can't let those things, get me down and blame, and I was just in CVS yesterday, and this poor woman, she couldn't get her prescription, and the pharmacist had to call the doctor, and she couldn't accept that she wasn't getting the prescription right now, and I could hear her say, this happens to me all the time. Wherever I go, I have problems, and I could just see how she was just playing, blaming people, places, and things for her problems, and so I see that now, and it's just kind of interesting. So I don't know, the meditation is getting richer, and so I hope, and I know that when I first came in, I didn't understand anything. So if you're new, or you are wondering, what is all this about, keep coming. The promises do come true, but you have to work at it. There's no way around. There's no easier, softer way. And what are you willing to do to get it? And that's not just true of sobriety. It's anything that you want. And from your personal life, I had to listen. I wanted to do a marathon, and I had to listen to people tell me how to do it, because it wasn't gonna. I thought I could. I knew a lot. I know a lot about running, but I had no idea how to train for that. And then some of it I didn't like. And you know what? If I didn't do what they suggested I do, like this, I wouldn't have been successful. So I don't know. Those are examples. They're clear-cut examples of it working, and it doesn't mean that life is always perfect. It's not. There's supposed to be problems. Every day you get up, there's supposed to be a challenge. But there are perfect moments. There are moments that are perfect. And so And now I can recognize some of those. And that's God. That's all God working, and He works through people. And I don't know, I don't want to ramble on and on. So I think, I don't know, that's what prayer and meditation has done for me. But a year ago, I wouldn't be able to tell you this because I was not there. So that's why you got to keep coming. And how much of you really heard today? Probably, I don't know, there's data that suggests how much we really hear, or we really listen what we hear. And that's why you got to keep coming, and because it isn't going to happen once or twice, and you're going to get it. My whole life, I mean, that's why I have to keep reading things over and over again, because I don't always, I forget. I got this big forgetter thing, and I'm working on rewiring how I think, and so that's all I have, I guess. Thanks.